I wasn't getting playing time, so I switched team. My aim wasn't sharp enough, so I got a beam, folk. A rifle with a mean scope, a whole lot of deep throat. I'm trying to sell Z's, but the city never sleep, folk.
Bobby Wardell Saramani II, aka I20, born July 8, 1975. At the height of the early 2000s, when Ludacris was one of rap's biggest stars and Def Jam South was buzzing, Disturbing the Peace looked like hip-hop's next dynasty. The Atlanta-based crew had everything: a platinum leader, a roster stacked with talent, and the credibility to connect both with radio and the streets. Within that mix was a rapper named I20, whose distinctive, deep voice and rugged persona made him instantly recognizable. He wasn't flashy like DTP affiliate star Chingy or animated like Luda. He was the everyday man from the block, the one who represented the more raw, rougher side of the crew. On paper, he was the perfect balance, and many thought he was destined to be DTP's cleanup hitter. The timing also seemed ideal. Street rap still dominated the mainstream. Baggy jeans, fitted caps, and do-rags were the look, and rappers with edge and a believable street persona were moving units. G-Unit was selling millions off the same image and the star power of 50 Cent that even Tony Yayo, a supporting member of the clique, went platinum on the wave of that momentum. If lesser talent could reach that level, I20 had every reason to believe he could too. He had the voice, the presence, and the cosign. But hip-hop doesn't always reward potential, it rewards execution and timing. In 2004, I20 finally got his chance with the album Self Explanatory, a record that should have been his moment. Instead, it landed quietly. Its single Break Bread failed to break through nationally, leaving the project to peak at number 42 on the Billboard 200, quickly fading from the conversation. No anthem pushed him into heavy rotation. No clear image separated him from just being another soldier in Luda's army, and no momentum carried him beyond that first shot. When he returned 4 years later with Blood in the Water, the culture had already shifted. Trap was taking over, ringtone rap was dominating the charts, and the baggy jeans era was gone. For I20, the chance to break out had passed, and with it, the mainstream visibility he once seemed destined for. His story is an example of how important it is to build your brand outside what the star or label can do for you. A reminder to seize opportunity that could be your last. What happened? Let's talk about it. Salute to TJ Mathis on IG for this request. It's your boy JC Stunt Growth Music. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. I20 was a rapper from Decatur, Georgia, best known for his deep, gravelly voice and street-focused delivery. Unlike artists who built early buzz with mixtapes, his path to recognition came almost entirely through his affiliation with Ludacris and Disturbing the Peace. As DTP began taking shape in the late 90s, I20 emerged as the crew's darker tone voice, the one meant to represent the street side of their brand. He gained his first national shine on Luda's 2001 album Word of Mouth, most memorably on the hit single Move, alongside Mystical and on Growing Pains. His commanding verses instantly set him apart and gave the impression that he could thrive on his own. By the early 2000s, as DTP rose to prominence, I20 was widely seen as their street anchor, a rapper expected to carve his lane and deliver a solo debut that matched the hype surrounding the crew. Stunt number 1, Overshadowed by Ludacris and the DTP Machine. From the very beginning, I20 faced the uphill battle of carving an identity while standing next to one of hip-hop's biggest stars. Ludacris wasn't just popular during the early 2000s, he was a certified superstar whose presence dominated both the charts and the culture. Between 2000 and 2004, he dropped 3 straight multi-platinum albums, stacked Billboard hits like Stand Up and Splash Waterfalls, and built a reputation as one of the most charismatic performers in rap. With a leader that powerful at the forefront of the crew, anyone else wearing the Disturbing the Peace logo naturally became a supporting cast member. For I20, that role was both a blessing and a curse. Being tied to Ludacris gave him instant national exposure many street rappers could only dream of. His voice boomed on Luda's Word of Mouth, his tone was commanding, his delivery authentic, and fans noticed he had the kind of presence that could work as a solo artist. But that recognition rarely translated to name value. For many listeners, he was simply the deep-voiced dude from Luda's crew, a tag that limited how far he could stand out. Within DTP, other members had more clear branding. Shauna was marketed as the female voice of the label, giving Def Jam South a lane nobody else on the roster could fill. Chingy, though only affiliated, broke out with Jackpot and crossover singles like Right There that placed him in the mainstream spotlight. Even Luda's playful, animated image contrasted with I20's gritty persona, making him seem more like the crew's muscle than a future solo star. When Self Explanatory arrived in 2004, it carried the DTP name more than I20's. Without a marketing push that separated him from Ludacris's orbit, his debut felt less like a defining solo moment and more like another extension of the crew. Stunt number 2, missing his moment. I20's debut album Self Explanatory arrived on October 5, 2004, during a stretch when Disturbing the Peace still had momentum, and Ludacris was, as mentioned, one of the biggest stars in rap. The setup looked ideal. I20 had already built anticipation through standout appearances, and fans expected his solo project to finally stamp his identity. Instead, the album landed with little impact and quickly faded from the conversation. The problem wasn't the lack of talent on the record. With production from Jazzy Faye and guest appearances from Ludacris and Bone Crusher, the album had the right pieces for that era. What it didn't have was a defining single. Its lead record, Break Bread, never gained national traction, and without radio rotation or a video that captured attention, the project's momentum stalled before it could develop. The rollout felt tentative, no relentless promo run, few memorable media moments, and limited touring to convert curiosity into core fans. In an industry that judged albums heavily on their lead single, Self Explanatory didn't have one strong enough to carry it. Even more crucially, I20 wasn't fully embraced when the spotlight hit. Some artists naturally connect with listeners at that moment, while others struggle even with the right platform. For whatever reason, whether his delivery was too raw, his image too underdeveloped, or simply the timing was wrong, the audience didn't attach to I20 as a solo act. That doesn't mean he lacked effort. It means the embrace never came, and without it, the opportunity passed. Hip-hop moments are unforgivingly short. If the culture doesn't gravitate to you quickly, it usually moves on without looking back. For I20, Self Explanatory was the chance to transform crew recognition into his own brand, and when it didn't land, the window closed almost as soon as it opened. Stunt number 3, disappearing from the conversation. The lukewarm response to Self Explanatory left I20 with one option: strike again quickly to keep his name alive. But instead of building on the modest visibility he earned, he went quiet. His second album, Blood in the Water, didn't appear until 2008, a full 4 years after his debut. By then, the hip-hop landscape had completely changed. In 2004, crunk and southern club anthems still dominated, and I20's rugged delivery fit the climate. By 2008, trap had taken center stage with T.I., Jeezy, and Gucci Mane defining the new Atlanta sound. At the same time, ringtone rap was exploding, with artists creating catchy singles that sold millions of downloads and kept them constantly visible. The industry had pivoted toward quick-turn singles, viral hooks, and larger-than-life personalities. I20's straightforward, hard-edged street image, once an asset, felt outdated in a scene hungry for trends and energy. When Blood in the Water finally dropped independently, it had little chance of making noise. Without major label promotion, radio play, or a single to reintroduce him to the mainstream, the project went largely unnoticed. Fans who remembered him from Move or his early features had moved on, and newer listeners barely knew his name. The gap erased nearly all anticipation, and by the time he tried to re-emerge, the culture had already passed him by. He would go on to release mixtapes and scattered projects in the following years, but none came close to restoring his earlier visibility. The momentum from his DTP days had evaporated, and momentum is one of the few things you rarely get back in hip-hop. For I20, the long absence during the prime of his crew's popularity ensured he'd become a footnote instead of a fixture. All in all, I20's career shows how quickly opportunity can vanish in hip-hop. He had the deep voice, raw presence, and direct access to one of the hottest movements of the early 2000s in Disturbing the Peace. On paper, he was positioned to succeed, but potential by itself isn't enough. Without a breakout record to carry his debut and with years passing before a follow-up, his momentum disappeared. By the time Blood in the Water arrived in 2008, the sound of Atlanta had already shifted and I20's moment was gone. He would continue to independently release music, but never regain the visibility he once had. For younger artists, his story is a reminder that timing, image, and execution all matter, and that the culture won't wait for you to catch up. When opportunity appears, you must already be ready because it may never come again. Salute, much respect, but for these reasons, his growth was stunted. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music,